Oh my God, you waited for it. We waited for it. And we are back. And we are live. It's go time. So let's do this.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
You've got to be a champion, and that's why you watch the Audible live here on YouTube. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, 18 seasons, Bloom. Can you believe it, brother? 18. We're old enough to vote now. The Audible can
Yeah.
vote. Okay. We should have a separate show about that. But anyway, we're here, man. The regular season is here. Can you believe it? The energy. Now, make sure I keep this energy like when week 18 rolls around and we're doing the preview shows. No waiver wire show today, although we do have a waiver of the future segment. But Bloom, 18 years, brother. Feels great.
Yeah, I think hold this time for y'all, 11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. That's where we're going to be live for the waiver wire show. And it's exciting to be back. And I think, Cease, what's most exciting is we've done drafts. There might be a few more drafts. You know, we've written our articles, we've done our shows, we've planted our flags, we've taken our stances. And we know that in a matter of a week, we're going to be sorting through the carnage and the wreckage and trying to figure out where were we wrong? Where do we need to get a little more data and evidence before we really take a stand? What things just came out of left field that we're just trying to absorb and process? So even all of this preparation we've done doesn't really prepare us, right? You just have to be able to be receptive and open and flexible, because all of the stands that we took, be ready to just abandon them and move on. And that's what we try to do here, is share that journey and all the ups and downs, and there are plenty.
Well, we try to be light and sweet, right? You have to think on your feet. You can't be set in your ways or your calls or your judgments or whatever. Too many people. It's not about you. Okay. It's not about your preseason projections. But I'll tell you this, Bloom, week one, and you do projections for footballguys.com. I do them just personally. Like week one is always the most interesting because we don't yet really know. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable with my projections until probably like week 5, when we've had a month worth of data.
Yeah, and I think that matches with Adam Harstad, your favorite, my favorite, a lot of our favorite, who always reminds us, and it would be interesting to track this year over year to see whether this continues to be sticky, but he always reminds us that for the first month of the season, ADP is as good or better at predicting individual week results as looking at the data that we have from this season. Now, I'm going to caution and say that's when you throw all the data in a bucket, because I think there are certainly going to be, we could break out situations, right? Teams with new coaches or new offensive coordinators or important new personnel, like a new quarterback. Well, I would say I would be more inclined to look at the data from this year, from week 1, week 2, as we project week 3. But when we get, there are some results. So, see, I guess another heading for this show is, and we think about this before the bullets start flying. We think about this before everything just starts rushing at us, rushing past us, as it does in a week of the NFL on an NFL Sunday. This is a situation where we have to be ready to take a deep breath and know that some of the things we can't overreact to. The week 1 reveal is going to show us something that the people who adopted the earliest as the new reality are going to do the best. But then there are going to be Frishman Jackson, right? There are going to be these week 1 aberrations, week 1 anomalies. And by preparing, we are probably, hopefully, going to do better at telling which ones are the red herrings and which ones are delicious caviar that we'll get rich eating.
That's right. Let's get rich on Detroit. I almost should step out of the way and just let you like take off with Detroit, but Jahmyr Gibbs, and I remember when I had told some people like they're gonna draft Jahmyr Gibbs, and people are like, that's crazy. It reminded me of the Chris McCaffrey thing. I was like, just listen, people, okay? They're drafting Jahmyr Gibbs because of everything that he can do. And in fact, was it Ben Johnson that was like alluding to like he's gonna do stuff we haven't even seen
Right.
before. Like, okay, what line up in the slot? Like, yeah, we can project what Gibbs can do. And in this game is incredibly exciting anyway. We're talking Lions, KC. It's our 2023 kickoff special. We're going to have our weekly preview shows on Wednesday and Thursday like we normally do. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But when I think of Detroit, I'm not talking Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown is amazing. Jameson Williams is suspended. So, we're looking at Sam Laporta, but it's Jahmyr Gibbs. I think everyone's getting their popcorn ready on Thursday night for the Jahmyr Gibbs show. Bloom, what does he show us in week 1?
Yeah, we're going to get more in depth into this matchup. What an intriguing matchup. I want to peel back all the layers. I do want to leave some meat on the bone for our preview show, but I think that what we have to allow for, and it's really great, Cease, that Lions, Ben Johnson, people need to know that name, Ben Johnson, going to be a head coach next year, almost certainly, somewhere. I trust him. I trust them. And I trust them to be successful at whatever it is they set out to do. But more than that, Cease, I trust them to not feel confined by what people have done before. Oh, you can't do that because nobody's done that before. This is some stuff that we can go back to Bill Belichick. Again, 18 years ago, right? We can go back to his willingness to go for it on 4th down at different parts of the field and players changing positions and so on. Being willing to overhaul the offense in one offseason when they got Randy Moss, being willing to go get players that beat up on your team and say, I want that guy. I don't want that guy to beat us up anymore. And these things seem unorthodox, right? Even signing a player to the practice squad the week before an opponent just to get some intel. I think Ben Johnson is that same kind of thinker. I don't believe that Ben Johnson is going to say, well, we can't have a running back, a quote unquote running back as our number one deep threat because no one's done it before. And the other thing I think about Gibbs is we talk about excitement for the reveal of Gibbs. And let's throw Sam Laporta in here too, okay? I also think that the Lions have a really good idea of what they want in terms of culture, in terms of personality, in terms of what makes a player tick. I think that's not necessarily just as important, but it's something that is a knockout factor for them. And you watched Gibbs, you watch Laporta, and see, I don't want to get into cliches, but a shorthand, easy way to describe it is they got that dog in them, right? They're competitive, tough players. And I think that is going to help add edge to an offense that I think Cease is going to be able to, just as we saw last year, run the ball in a lot of different ways, pass the ball in plays, designs that set up players to get open, that set up players for run after catch opportunities. And just those two players, Laporta and Gibbs, Kansas City should be on their heels a little bit, wondering how these players are going to be unleashed because Ben Johnson's got a plan, and the Lions are usually good when they have a plan.
Yeah, the Lions can be that plan. Now, can they win? We'll talk about that. But is there anyone from Detroit that would surprise you in this game? Is there anyone from Detroit that we're not looking at? We mentioned Laporta. Laporta was my recommendation for everyone that missed out on their big tight ends. I was like, just go get Sam Laporta. You'll be good. And Fessel OG Bloom, guess who got Sam Laporta? This guy.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for that. I also got one of our waiver claims of the future. That's coming up in just a little bit after we talk KC. But is there any Lions player that would surprise you? Where's my man Khalif Raymond at?
Right. Sure. Khalif Raymond. So without Jameson Williams, you've got Marvin Jones back in Detroit. You've got Khalif Raymond. You've got Josh Reynolds. And maybe this is why we're hearing more about Jahmyr Gibbs being a deep threat. Not that there's anything to take away. Marvin Jones isn't a deep threat anymore. Josh Reynolds isn't a true deep threat. Khalif Raymond is, you can sprinkle him in with his speed. He's a surprise. What I think might be a surprise here, so we're jumping right into previewing this game, is maybe Detroit is going to run the ball a lot in this game, because Chris Jones, as far as I know, is not going to play, right? I mean, maybe something could get
He's not real happy. Let's say that.
Yeah. I mean, as of this moment, Tuesday morning, he's not going to play on Thursday night. Terrell Wharton, who I think is their best defensive tackle after Chris Jones, he's banged up. So doesn't it just make sense, Cease, for Detroit, Emmanuel Mosley's banged up. We'll see about Cameron Sutton. We'll see about CD Deuce. We'll see about these guys, these additions. But the Lions' defensive backfield is very, very vulnerable. And yeah, they've got Aiden Hutchinson. They have some players on defense, but certainly when the Kansas City Chiefs have the ball on offense, they have the advantage, right? Doesn't it just make sense to try to put together 6, 7, 8-minute drives, keep Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines, wear down that Chiefs defense? Because we know Deuce Staley's down in Carolina now, but we know this was a team that could run the ball a lot of different ways, a very difficult team to prepare for their running game. And that was with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. I would say, Cease, that both of these players represent an upgrade, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And you're setting up Jared Goff in 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4 kind of situations. That's fine. Those are plays with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Laporta, with Gibbs out of the backfield as a receiver that they can handle. Those are very makeable plays for them. So I think maybe the surprise might be that this isn't a shootout, that this isn't a track meet kind of game, that Detroit wants to turn this into a street fight. And like I said, I think they have personnel to match the mode that they want to inhabit for that week. And I'll top it off by saying this, speaking of surprises, I'm really happy that the NFL schedule makers put Detroit here. And they could flop. This could be a colossal flop. This could be like 37-6, Chiefs. But they get to feel the weight of expectation, right? They get to feel the weight of attention. They get to feel the weight of, it's not the same old Lions. They're new expectations. Let's see what you can do with them.
Well, I think they get their ass kicked, honestly. And it's a transition from your score 37 to, I'll say like 35 to 20, something like that. Because here's the thing, you may want to do that to Kansas City. And it's football 101. Keep the Chiefs cold on the sidelines and run the ball. Yeah. What happens when they score in a play? What happens when you kick off the ball and it's one pass to Sky Moore? And the stuff I've been hearing behind the scenes about Sky Moore, Chris in the chat room says Sky Moore season. You damn right. Is Kadarius Toney going to play? This is something that we've been waiting on there as well. So it's cute. Everybody's cute when you face Kansas City. And then that pressure is on. By the way, the pressure on Jared Goff as well, because they're still talking contract and whatever. Like, okay, Detroit, you made it. I'm glad, Bloom. Like you, I'm glad Detroit is here. Can you play with the big boys? My answer is hell no. Hell no. Not yet. Lots of talk coming from Detroit. Kansas City's got the hardware to back it up. And oh yeah, Isaiah Pacheco, the angriest runner in the league. You really want to run the ball? Kansas City can run the ball.
Sure. It's Kansas City, this is old hat. They can be better than last year. And I'm thinking of, are you one of the big dogs? You're going to stay up on the porch. But this is a good thing for Dan Campbell to find out. And if they do get humiliated, Cease, that could be the best thing for this team, right? Whatever they've been reading, whatever playoff projections, whatever projections to win the division.
That division's wide open.
Right. But then if you, in week 1, get a real wake-up call that you're nowhere near the elite teams in the NFL yet, then that's that drive. That's that motivation throughout the season. And just like rookies, and rookies are going to play a big role in this offense for the Lions, teams can be different in December than they were in September. So I think that we have a really intriguing matchup for that reason from the Lions side. And then from the Chiefs side, you mentioned Sky Moore. I think that's one of the keys to this from a fantasy perspective. Sky Moore's first man up for that job vacated by Juju Smith-Schuster. Kadarius Toney sounds like he's going to be healthy enough to play. Richie James is a little banged up. There's Rashee Rice, Justin Ross. We know that Marcus Valdes-Scantling is going to be a full-time deep threat. And this is probably a good game. What the Heck Flex Thursday preview, right? Here's a What the Heck Flex for you. Marcus Valdes-Scantling against this secondary, and not necessarily the most scary pass rush. So maybe you just have a deep ball or two that they connect on. But otherwise, we've seen that the Chiefs are going to give playing time to the players that earn it. And there's a lot of playing time up for grabs, a lot of fantasy value up for grabs. It might be sporadic. It might be tough to project week to week, but injuries and other things maybe could clarify it, or just play could clarify it. And Sky Moore is the one with the biggest opportunity to say, this is my job, and I'm not going to let go of it.
Yeah, it's Sky Moore season to be sure. And listen, Tony's fine. If he's out there, he's going to be fantastic. Ross is the one, like, all right, dude, enough talk, enough, go, enough, buddy. And then Rashee Rice, my intel from Kansas City, is like, they love him. He's not ready.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready. To quote Kevin Hart, like, yeah, he's not ready, but they do love him. They still love Deneric Prince. Let's put a pin in that. Jerick McKinnon, did you mention it's what that flex? We're going to
Yeah.
give a little Jet McKinnon some love here, baby.
Cease, this is going to be funny. Here, you want a hot take? This isn't really that hot. This
Hot.
is like this isn't like a Scotch bonnet pepper or a habanero. This is one of those pickled jalapenos in a jar. I'd say if you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon, and I'm gonna have to do this in my projections, I would probably project Edwards-Helaire ahead of McKinnon this week. And we saw this last year. And I do think that it's not a secret that Jerick McKinnon is probably not built to hold up for a whole season at this point in his career, and that he provides the team the most value in December and January. So I do think you're going to see them bring him along slowly. And you mentioned Prince, who I believe is on the practice squad.
Yes.
He had a great spring, solid camp, didn't carry that momentum over. So I don't know how trustworthy. And LaMichael Pirine, don't forget LaMichael Pirine. LaMichael Pirine in the last preseason game for the Chiefs was outstanding. And a lot of people were saying, well, I guess Pirine needs to make the team as the number 4 running back. Whoever the number 4 running back is might become an important player if Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets banged up, if Isaiah Pacheco gets banged up, because I do think the team has a load management plan. And we're going to watch other players around the league for this, right? Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas, they're going to be players. I think that before the ghost of Julio Jones faded into the sunset, that was what was going to happen with Julio in Tennessee, right? You were going to make sure maybe they aren't on the field more than 60% of the time, but when they're on the field, they're set up to be a contributor. I think that for McKinnon, that's how they're going to use him, but that's going to start out small, and it's going to maybe expand, maybe in a key game, maybe late in the fourth quarter when you need a drive, maybe in general in those 2-minute drill hurry up drives where you need his veteran presence. But I do think that Edwards-Helaire, he was getting first team snaps, and I think you're going to see him just like he did last year, maybe come out of the gate with some actual fantasy value.
Yeah, he's looking for a new contract. So what you're saying is Jet McKinnon is like Sex Panther. Sorry, Joe. 60% of the time it works. Every time. Every time. That's every day.
That's a classic. That's like an oldie now.
That is an oldie now. By the way, Just Dak asks for this, and he says, "Can you guys give a shout out to my CEO, Greg Powers?"
Yeah.
Greg Powers. That's like the greatest name
name
ever, right?
Yeah.
Greg Powers. Right? I got to talk to Ben Powers. I talked to Ben Powers yesterday in the locker room. I got some hair tips from Alex Singleton too, Blow.
Oh, it's good. The body looks really good.
It's coming
along.
along.
Don't wash it every day. Let those natural oils really build up in there. I don't have anything to show up there, but yeah, that's a powerful name. And of course,
Greg Powers. Of course, you'd be a CEO if you're Greg Powers,
shout
right?
out. Yeah, I do want to say, just as a quick aside, because I don't even know if people understand that Anchorman, that's how old the show is, right? We were still riding the wave of Anchorman, the wave of the revival of R-rated comedies.
Super bad.
Oh yeah,
all the stuff
40-Year-Old
you couldn't do
Virgin
today, right?
Yeah, 40-Year-Old Virgin, I think was the breakthrough, really. But Anchorman, and I've always, see, we never even discussed Anchorman and Stay Classy, but I liked it because we're playing sportscaster. We're pretending to be sports talkers, right? Just like they were in the film. Everybody is. It's all play. It's all dress up. But I do want to say, as a quick aside, watch a ton of baseball. I know baseball talk. The San Diego play-by-play and color guy are the goofiest, zaniest, weirdest guys. Like, they will go off on a tangent and just talk about state birds, and they'll keep bringing it up during the game. Like, I watch a lot of other baseball play-by-play announcer and color combinations, and some of them are terrible homers. Some of them are just, you almost fall asleep, right? Not San Diego. So they're carrying that on, as are we here on the Audible.
Yes, and in studying things, people want to be entertained, man, and we get that. We love you guys showing up in the chat room every week. We love the fact that we are back and live here on Tuesday mornings. We'll be back for the Waiver Wire show. We're still doing our Wednesday and Thursday previews. Thursday Night Live is now going to be Matt Waldman, Jeff Bell. Make sure to stay tuned for that. That is the Audible Live. That has our blessing to have that name, and we appreciate Matt Waldman as always. Sunday nights, we'll be back doing our recaps. Bloom, before we're out of here, we got to give people a taste.
Yes.
of you've seen in the future.
The
You've
crystal
looked
ball,
into
yeah.
the crystal ball, and you've shaken up the magic 8 ball, but you've seen some names. Save my name for me,
Sure.
please,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
have some stuff that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm gonna
Good.
tell you anyway.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes. So,
That's
but
the
let's get to
segment,
your
Cease.
yeah, let's
Cecil
get to
Lammey,
your
stuff that I shouldn't say.
waiver wire crystal ball for week 2. Who you liking, Bloom?
Yeah, this would normally be our waiver wire show. And I will say this, and I appreciate commissioners out there that allow for either first come, first serve waivers, blind bid waivers before the season starts. I think it's great. It adds a little bit of draft strategy. Don't draft a kicker, don't draft a defense. Just takes a few more speculative players, see what happens, pick them up on Wednesday, your defense and kicker, and so on. So your waivers might be open. You might be able to pick up some of these players right now if you're looking for a speculative pickup. And I just want to highlight some players that we might be talking about. And there's a few players that no one's going to see coming. There always are, but there's a few that we can see coming. Watch the Miami running back situation. Salvin Ahmed's a little banged up. Devin A-Chain's a little banged up. Back at practice, A-Chain is. Watch out for Chris Brooks. When we say Matt Waldman favorite, made the team as a UDFA. And if there is a backfield in the NFL that a player can go from the bottom to the top of the depth chart in 1 week, like at the beginning of the game, they're at the bottom of the depth chart. At the end of the game, because of injury, because of performance, they're at the top of the depth chart. That's Miami. And it's going to be a good running game. It's an explosive running game. Chase Brown, we've been talking more about Chris Evans, and he's more of a third down, passing down back. There's a lot of positive stuff starting to leach out about Chase Brown.
It's been
And we
out there
all know
earlier
that
in the offseason too with Brown, so that
right.
matches up some earlier drum beats, but this is way back a while ago. We're talking a few
Right.
months ago when those started slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting too with his twin brother Sidney Brown over there in Philadelphia, was drafted before Chase as a safety. Sean Tucker, undrafted, lots of buzz in the last week or two. Not only did he make the team as an undrafted free agent, but there's buzz that he's the number 2 running back. And when we look at these running backs that are getting touches by default, like Rashad White is, we always want to know who's the next man up. And Sean Tucker is at least the same caliber of talent that Rashad White was as far as draft prospects. Remember, he fell out of the draft because of medical issues. Indie backfield we're going to watch. I'll mention Marvin Mims. He probably was drafted in most leagues, depending on how deep your league is.
Maybe.
But he'll start week 1. Tutu Atwell, Puka Nakua, like that. Tutu and Puka. With the Cooper Kupp, I don't think we're going to see Cooper Kupp week 1. I don't think we're going to see him week 2. Maybe week 3. I don't know. Trey Palmer, just keep this name in mind because he is the number 3 receiver for Tampa, even though Baker Mayfield, the slayer of fantasy value, is there. Mac Hollins, the last one I'm going to say, Cease. Mac Hollins. First of all, have you seen Mac Hollins lately? Have you seen him lately? Because he looks like he's ready to go straight to professional wrestling after this. I mean, I think he'd be a good heel for professional wrestling. We need to work on what his identity would be. I mean, he looks really, really buff right now. And he's already been a receiver who has some size and speed to threaten downfield. Now you have a guy that I think is maybe going to bring a lot of functional play strength. But here's the other thing, Cease. And I think we need to put some respect on Arthur Smith's name. Okay. I don't know that we've given Arthur Smith enough respect. I believe that you have, Cease, you always know if you're a good coach, you're thinking, what's the other guy thinking? What's the other coach thinking? What are they expecting? Right. And in week 1, you have that big element of surprise because there's no tape. There's nothing. The Desmond Ridder offense with Bijan Robinson, there's nothing for them to study. I mean, preseason, they barely even played. So you're going to have a priority. Hey, Kyle Pitts is on the field. You know, our best coverage linebacker safety. Oh, Drake London. Well, we know he's the number 1. Bijan Robinson, the running game. We know that's going to be a priority. Mac Hollins is going to be in a lot of one-on-one situations. There are going to be plays like a play action. Isn't Mac Hollins the guy you can imagine them just forgetting about, just running behind?
Oh, easily. Yeah.
So I think Mac Hollins is a really interesting player this year, partially because, well, can you name any but Josh Ali? I mean, can you even name any other Falcons receivers other than Drake London?
We've talked about Josh Ali on this show. There's some
we have.
drum beats there as well. So keep a pin in that. Keep a pin in this. I'm not saying he's taken over in the backfield. Okay? I'm not. I don't want to be quoted as saying that. Cecil Lammey said Jalil McLaughlin's
Don't
taking
do that.
over.
No, he
Don't
didn't.
do that. But this will still be Javonte and Samaje splitting time. Their time. But as Martin Lawrence used to say, someone else got your time. And guess who that someone else is? It is Jalil McLaughlin. I'm putting the number at 25% of the snaps. Okay? Can't reveal anything that I've seen in practice. I just know Sean Payton. I appreciate Sean Payton. I know that he's going to play. Who can make plays? What? Which one are you? Okay,
Yeah.
you go. And he has no issues. It doesn't have anything to do with drafted, undrafted, none of that. Jalil McLaughlin, get to know his name, get to know his game. When I drafted him in Fessel OG, there were some people in the chat room saying I have never heard of that guy. So everyone's going to hear about him after this week. He's going to be the explosive element to the Broncos ground game. And he's going to do a few things as a receiver as well. Got to trust him as pass pro. I can't say with any certainty that they can do that. He hasn't been bad in backs on backers. But again, game situation, how does he pick it up? And the guy was living in his car. You know, we always love the human side of this, Bloom. It's glory to the players, glory to the game. Again, for any young fantasy analyst, like, it's about me and it's about my hot takes. Your hot takes are wrong, bro. Okay? All of us will be wrong at certain times. It's about being consistently as correct as you possibly can be, while also knowing that there are things that are going to happen because it's an oddly shaped football and it's bounces different ways. With Jalil McLaughlin, we all can root for him. He was experiencing homelessness. His mother is incredible. Tanya, shout out Tanya McLaughlin, incredible inspiration to him. And this young man, all-time NCAA leading everything. So yes, I think the Broncos have a McLaughlin package in mind, and that package may be larger than you once thought.
Yeah. And see, I'm reminded, I think I brought up this connection already, to the 2011 Saints backfield. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that was the year that they acquired an undersized running back, Darren Sproles. So that year, here were the carries: 122 for Mark Ingram, who only played in 10 games, and Chris Ivory only played in 6 games. He had 79. So that's about 200 carries. Maybe that's Javonte Williams. Pierre Thomas had 110. Maybe it's a little closer to an even split. But Darren Sproles carried the ball 87 times and also caught 86 balls. That was with Pierre Thomas catching 50, by the way. So they still had Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston. So it wasn't like they just didn't have options at tight end or wide receiver. So I think that if you say, no, Sean Payton, bell cow, no, Sean Payton likes committee backfields and not necessarily just a 2-man committee. Remember, before that, they had Reggie Bush. So Sean Payton knows how to use a lighter back, a back that adds more in terms of speed and quickness than power. And doesn't it just make sense to have different modes, like we talked about with the Lions, different modes to show a defense depending on their weakness, depending on who's hot that day, depending on how your offensive line clicks as a run blocking unit. So I think you're right, Cease. And I think that when we do the previews this week are going to be longer than usual because it's the big reveal. And more than predicting, I knew that was going to happen, I was right.
Right.
It's just keeping your brain limber so that we know which results have possibly the most significance. Where are the things in the NFL that we have a wider range of outcomes in mind for 2023? And let's see where that first data point is. And that starts with how backfields, how targets are divvied up, what the approach is on offense. And I think Jalil McLaughlin is a terrific name to bring up as a player that is most likely going to be more significant, larger package, Cease, than people are expecting.
Sorry, Joe Plus is where you go for that.
Welcome to larger package than you expected. Oh, that was a larger package than I expected with the Jalil McLaughlin.
Yes. By the way, Ion's talking about Flowers. I can't help but talk about Zay Flowers, Ion. Yeah. That's coming up in our preview shows. Wednesday and Thursday is our preview shows. We do a special preview of the first game. We kick off the season. We get our rally caps on at the end. Make sure you do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And make sure if you've chatted in the chat room, comment below. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Watch to the end, please. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Please do anything to help our YouTube algorithm, but we appreciate you. And you want to support the show, we don't do any super chats, anything like that. I always kind of giggle when I see super chat shows. I'm like, you're paying for them to put your comment on the screen? Okay. But anyway, so how do you support the Audible? Go to footballguys.com. Sign up for our free daily newsletter. Sign up for a Football Guys subscription, and we appreciate you. He's Sigmund. You follow him on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Until next time, everyone, be safe, be kind, know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned, and would you please, how about you do this? Stay frosty.